The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast are those of the host/guest and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any of BXR entities and those they represent.
Welcome back. Welcome back. I'm your host, Nate, host of this Artist Exchange radio show. Um, Today is definitely a shorter one, and let me put this on Do Not Disturb. Should have did that already. How do you do it? These people they don't care. Um, but I'm here today, um, like every Friday. Just a heads up, next Friday, we will not be here. We will be with Blue. His show is opening up at the Vauxhall on 25th between Charles and Maryland Avenue. So we'll be there supporting him for his show. Um, what else is going on in the city? Tonight, a friend of mine, Tracy Jiggets, she directed a show called Variations at Motor House. So it actually opens up tonight, but I'll be there this weekend to do that. I'm also coming out with a new blog. Well, not blog, but I'll be just posting about things that I've partaked in, like restaurants or other art and cultural food venues in the city and in my travels. Um, and I have one young lady that I've been working with. Her a pop-up shop is at our house. That's in the Remington area, between 28th and 29th Street. I don't know the name of um, that street right there, but I know it's between 28th and 29th at our house. That's the letter R house. And she is Ethiopian, so she'll be serving some pretty good Ethiopian meals. I think she has 4 things on the menu, and she may be switching it out because she's there until the end of this month. So I will be there for that. I actually went already, and the food was really good. She has vegan and non-vegan options. Um, so I did that on, I believe that was Tuesday, or I think it was Tuesday. I went to do that. So that was delicious. I also took some it's another restaurant there, but I'll be doing a separate thing for that one. So just look out. I'll be posting it on the Artist Exchange page, and Marnie may pick it up and put it on the website. I don't know. I don't know. Um, but I'm tired. Um, so schools go on a schedule, and it's like a pay week schedule and a non-pay week schedule. And because this year I'm teaching art, visual art, I'm on a and B schedule. So A and B is this week is normally pay week and non-pay week. That's how they normally classify it to us. And A week is you normally see these students Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and these students Tuesdays and Thursdays, and then it switches the following week, B week. And when my so this is A week. So when A week comes, it's really exhausting because I have one of my grades. I'm not going to say the grade because I found out one of my parents be watching, and I don't really care. I'm gonna be really honest because this is my platform, and I would never expose a child or a coworker, but I normally talk about things in general. But a lot of these things have happened to me in my experience over the course of me teaching. And I started being a teaching artist and just a teacher in general when I was 23. 23 or 20, like 23, 24. So it's been over 10 years now that I've been doing this. And um, sometimes coworkers and parents and students alike, they often, because they're just meeting you, they assume that you're just getting getting into um, the field. And I think it's interesting that people feel that way. But it's, and I know for the past year, I've been talking more and more about school. I've always talked a little bit about it, but I've been put into schools in the last couple years that I'm not used to the environments, and maybe you'll have a couple incidents with maybe a student or a parent or a faculty member. But recently, it's just been I'll say the last 4 or 5 years, it's been, environments where it's really tough. And I have a certain temperament where a lot of stuff don't typically get to me, but when I'm mad, I let it be known. And angry, I'll say angry, because sometimes things do frustrate you. Um, and actually, today's topic is quick to anger. And it was something that in me I had to check very early on, because children, despite how they pick and nag at you, or um, are purposely doing things, and even adults the same way, I had to realize I had to adjust how I reacted to situations, because people often like to see you get mad. People do things, people are petty in that way because they want to see you frustrated. And it does something for them or to them to see you angry or frustrated. And I think that's very interesting. I think it's a little evil, to be honest. But as I was saying last week, and what has inspired me to have these conversations so openly on my platform and this in general is because there are a few, more than a few, teachers that are either currently in the school system or have quit the school system that have started podcasts. And I have been watching one of them, um, and it's Teachers on Duty. If you go to YouTube, you'll see a lot of these conversations, and they talk very candidly about their experiences. And I'm not trying to turn the Artist Exchange into that platform, but I never thought I could, one, because there are a lot of things you can't do when you work for the system. Like, you're not supposed to talk about certain things, and those are uh, like kind of in the closet rules, if you will. So they're not technically official rules, but a lot of the stuff you're not supposed to really um, talk about specific incidents with children, or but I've learned how to do it without saying names, or because a lot of the stuff I talk about is over the course of years. Some of the stuff are like current. When I'm more talking about my mood, maybe that's more current stuff. But it's really interesting that we are in these types of spaces where um, well, I'll say since the pandemic, a lot of stuff is being blamed on how the school system reacted to the pandemic. And it's very easy to blame a system that is very old in terms of this community, and these communities, cities, and it's really outdated in many senses. They are trying everything to be current in how they react to situations. Like, currently, there's this whole push for wholeness, and wholeness is really mind, body, and mind and body. I'll say mind and body, and making sure the whole child is being attended to, and that whole child includes their family, their community, the environment of the school, their interactions with other adults in the school, teaching, how I teach, how we react or respond to things that are happening. And I'll say because of that, a lot that once before was addressed I would say right now is not being addressed. And because of that, um, teachers are feeling more restricted um, than ever before. And things seem to be more of a priority for others, and the needs, the things that teachers prioritize, like our mental health, like the environment of our classrooms, like our ability to be able to actually teach, seems to go on a back burner for other people, even though teachers are pushing for. And I learned, over the course of this week watching that podcast, not every state has a union for their teachers. And that is interesting because I'm really on the fence about unions in general. But, and however, I was trying to share this out a little bit to some people. Um, I don't know none of these people. Facebook just be putting anybody. I guess there's a new algorithm. They trying to let you be seen by more people, but I'm all for it. Um, and you know what, I may be in Be Exposed's page sharing this. That's probably why it's showing me all these random people. But um, I would say overall, my mood for this week is puzzled. That's not mad or angry. It's just puzzled. Um, I'll speak up on the issue of adults communicating with other adults. Um, Everybody has an agenda when they're entering a conversation or a meeting, or when they're colliding with other adults, whether it be teacher and parent, or friend and stranger, or whomever. But it just seems like we are having more and more trouble communicating with each other because I want things done my way, and I don't see you, nor do I see what your needs are, or wants for that matter. Um, and it's becoming more and more increasingly difficult to communicate with other people. And I'm going to speak specifically to adults. It's becoming increasingly difficult to communicate because, one, people don't say everything that they feeling. Two, people hide their hand a lot, same type of issue. And three, I feel like everybody's on edge lately. And I'm trying to figure out how to communicate with people now because everything is taken the wrong way. I was having a conversation yesterday with someone, and I made a comment about they possibly could be having some trauma from past experiences. And that person took it as I said they have traumas, and even that's along the lines of what I was saying, but I was saying it in a way where that may be an issue. You asked me a question and I'm telling you my truth in terms of I feel that how we respond to things nowadays is based off of past experiences, and the person that may have brought that out or triggered that may have nothing to do with that, may have nothing at all to do with that, and we are using those people as punching bags in terms of relieving ourselves from past hurt or past trauma or past everything. And as over the last, I'll just say this pandemic period, I've just been listening more to what people are saying, and probably I didn't do that as great before as I am now, but I'm listening to what people are saying, and I'm just hearing a lot of, I don't hear you, I want what I want. It is a big push to being selfish, and rightfully so. Even my pastor at one point, there was a point where I was really focusing on me, and my pastor said, "It's okay. This is your selfish period, selfish season." And so I acknowledge that, and I give people in my space that grace because I was given. Well, I really wasn't given that grace, but you know, in terms of my past, and people really loved me. They gave me that space to kind of clear things up and figure things out. So this week we had, I say all that, but this week we had our first uh, that is it's called back to school night. So all schools typically do it, and they normally wait maybe a week or so. Some do it earlier, some do it later. Most schools try to get everybody into the system and figure things out and get comfortable with the newness of it. And then they have back to school night where a lot of stuff is addressed, a lot of new things, processes, policies, guidelines are expressed, and the parents get to meet with the teachers. If it's a new teacher or they get reacclimated to teachers that they may have already known or whatever. Um, and it was fine. Typically, I don't stay for those things. I just don't. Um, I just don't. I'm not gonna lie, because for most of my teaching career, I've been more of an art teacher, and there's no emphasis on the extracurricular teachers or instructors or even the other staff or faculty. It's typically about the primary teachers, the grade teachers. And so I typically don't go because sometimes you're just sitting around waiting, as I was this week, just sitting around. And I I said I was going to be proactive this time. So if I'm going to be there, and our principal and administrator was really pushing us to be there. So if I'm going to be there, I'm going to interact with the parents that I need to. That in these first 3 weeks or so, certain students have been more of an issue, and I did that. I had a conversation with a parent, and I felt like it was for nothing. I felt like I wasted my time having the conversation because that person, that individual, that adult came into our conversation on two different occasions, with a idea of who I was. Now, what was funny and interesting, I had that same issue with a parent last year. And that parent and I made amends this year at that parent, well, no, I'm not a parent, but that back to school night. And it was very easy. It was very, shocking to me because for all of last year, it was just, she had a thought about me and that's what she felt. And that parent just, we didn't speak. We would cross paths and she wouldn't say much, or she wouldn't say anything. Um, and it was interesting that now this year I have a different parent that I'm going through the same thing with. And there were other parents where I butted heads, but once we had a conversation, of course, we understood each other. Had another parent who I asked to communicate with me before we jump to any conclusion, whether the child did something wrong or I did something wrong or the situation wasn't handled correctly. Come to me first and hear me out. Ask me the questions that you ask to your child and get what my perspective was so you can create a different outcome or conclusion. And that's something my mother taught me. Um, when I would come home and I'll say a teacher did this happened, this happened, this happened. It was more so my mother would listen to me, then she would go to the school and listen to the teacher, and then she would realize what really happened. And I practiced that this year, and I kind of gave that to some parents that I had opportunity to speak with. But this parent, it feels like she wants it to be a problem. It's like she almost wants it to be a problem, and no matter what I tried to kind of circumvent it actually being an issue, it was like it was met with this a force that wanted it to be a problem. So I decided to just walk away, and that frustrates me because the child was there. So now I am aiding in helping that child to see how not to handle confrontation, and I see that she already is being taught how to handle confrontation at home, the wrong way. And I don't let a lot of stuff get to me. But when my integrity and my character is being put in jeopardy, I have a problem with that. And I've been saying it for a minute now because I've noticed, especially when there's an issue between a black man and a black woman, those things come up. And it makes me uncomfortable because as a black man, I am not priority in terms of being believed or trusted or cared for. And it just makes me a little bit, you know, makes me a little uncomfortable. So I'm going to take this weekend and just figure out what I want to do because I'm not going to go the route of trying to make this person like me or understand me or care that I have a perspective in this. I'm not doing that at all. I've tried that in the past and it ends up in horror because that person then abuses um, that energy that I put in. So it's not that, but I just want people to understand. One, children are always listening; they're always watching, and they take your lead, and they see how you get. And I typically let children get to me a little bit more than I let adults get to me, because they just don't know any better. And I have to understand that children know how to push your buttons. Once they learn, they continue to do it. And then there's a thing of when there's no accountability um, for your actions. And I wasn't raised with a thing where I was given incentive. So maybe that's why I don't typically do it. I'm learning, especially as somebody who is a leader in my work, in my field. I'm learning how to give the people who are working with me and for me um, incentives and but I still need to see the work being done. I need to see the behavior being done and displayed. And if I know there's a challenge, let's work it out. But just to simply give candy or give prizes so you can do it, that's not how I was raised. And I think it's really doing a disjustice to a number of these students who are in those spaces and going through that. I think it definitely is a disjustice to them, um, rearing them that way. Uh, so I'll kind of say just cap that with um, I am really in deep meditation, and I know a lot of teachers have been and currently are, and certainly will be in that mindset because things are really, 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 really tough. Um, the numbers in terms of children who aren't reading on their uh, natural level. And there's always room because even within the school system, the way a teacher is teaching them at the beginning of the year, your children come to you as is, and they may be at the bottom level of where they should be in that grade. And as they matriculate, you hoping that they get to the bottom level of the next grade so that they can at least start at, at least a good level when they matriculate to the next grade. Um, but a lot of our students, because of the pandemic, and I'm in elementary school, so we see it the most. We see a lot of children that are not just academically behind, but socially behind. And social, I believe, is more important than academics because if you are not socially on your right age level or grade level, it really will be a problem for you in you receiving information because then, especially in a school system, you're having children having to teachers and staff having to deal with classroom management more so than academic achievement. And there's been a big push to get all the students on a higher level of literacy, and that's with reading, writing, comprehension, math, so on and so forth. Those being a big ones that they want to push them forward, and then everything else to kind of, you know, be what it is. But those are the foundation things that needs to be addressed right now, and they are. And I would say the system of school is trying to do as best a job they can to encourage the teachers to get them to a different level. But ultimately, it is the student that is making a decision that they're over it because a lot of this stuff hasn't been addressed for a whole 2 years. You have students who did not come back to school right away because um, did not come to school right away after the pandemic because their parents either chose not to let them come back or just was like, well, you go stay out. We'll take you back when it's time. Um, Today, I had a student that I saw for the first time. There were a couple students that are just coming back to school for the first time. And it could be anything. This is not about blaming parents or family, but it could be any reason. You could have moved or you know, work environments or home. A lot of people are having to find new homes and so on and so forth. And it really is a lot from every direction. And the people that are suffering the most are one, the children at the top, and then everybody else is kind of like on the outskirts of that are really having a difficult time. But I would say for parents, go if there's any parents listening, go to um, YouTube and go to the podcast is called I believe it's called Teachers on Break or something like that. I believe that's what it is. I watch it, and I've started to watch it every morning now as I'm getting ready, and it really is like it's a good show because it's really lighthearted, but it really talks a lot about um just life. It's Teachers Off Duty. That's the name of it. And I'm gonna try to get one of the ones that I like the best. It's three young ladies, and then they normally cycle in different teachers or administrators. They just had a vice principal on for the first time, and I think that was really eye opening because you got to hear a different perspective versus it just being teachers. Um, and I've sent in my information because I definitely, as a person who's been mostly an art instructor, I would love to take part in that conversation because they talk about how things affect teachers. They talked about substitutes. They haven't really gotten on like the resource teachers yet, but um, it's very interesting conversation. They make it really lighthearted and they joke a lot, but they're telling their own stories because you have a lot of teachers that are dealing with PTSD right now. You have a lot of teachers that, and I have a friend. My friend Tracy was a victim of a student slamming her finger in a door and a part of her finger is now missing. Like they had to sever that because it crushed the nail bed. Her nail bed was so from this point of her finger on up is gone. So she's missing this part of her finger, and I don't even know what you see it, but um, that she didn't want to go back to the classroom because they let the student right back in that class. So she would have been, in essence, teaching that same student, with her finger being impaired. Um, and it really just, a lot of teachers really feel like nobody is listening, nobody is concerned. And I'll be honest, for me, I know my school because the numbers were down starting school. I know they get less of the budget that they projected that year. But, for me, um, this year, well, I'm not gonna say for me. Um, if you were not a registered teacher, they gave bonuses to the registered teachers, the teachers that stayed. So the other faculty that are at the school, their needs were just part of the budget. So if it wasn't in the budget, you didn't get it. And it's simple things that I feel like, you know, the powers that be, and this is over the principals and administrators' heads, but these are the people that sit up at the school board and make decisions for students that they don't even know, for school systems that they probably only been in one time, if that. Um, our CEO, she only goes to the schools that are achieving. She doesn't come to the schools that aren't, doing as well to see the environment, to see the need, to see the adjustments. And it's just weird to me. But I'm not gonna get on that, uh, even though I've been already. But I'm gonna kind of ease into transition into our topic for today, which is quick to anger. There was a video that I saw of a mother. She was on, I believe it was TikTok. So I'll preface this. She made a video. She was not on social media. She was on the video she was just taking a video and she shared it with, I believe it was a family friend, and that family friend put it on social media. And of course, once internet gets the telephone game begins. So so the story gets watered down and shifted and turned around, and there's no recourse. Like, the story just gets blown out of proportion. And we see that with celebrities, we see that with locals. You post something and the telephone game and it turns into a different story. Well, the mother then came back. So after I sent Marnie the video, do we have the video, Marnie? I think he left. Did he leave? Are you there, Marnie?
I'm here, not quite yet, almost.
Okay. So before I sent Marnie, well, after I sent Marnie the video, I then saw the other video um, that I wanted to be played, but the new video was actually the mother, and she was explaining. So allegedly, the child was 12. The mother had taken away the cell phone, and he destroyed this house. So on the video, you see the mother walking through the house crying. TVs are broken, windows are broken. It's just that she has a marble slab in the kitchen. A chunk of that on the corner is missing. You see things tossed off. You see mirrors broken. It seems like every TV computer screen in that home is done. Um, she makes notice to a work computer that looks like it's destroyed. So that was probably devastating. It looks like she had a work area. It appears that she may have worked from home, and everything was destroyed. The mother then came back in the second video that I saw and clarified it. The young person was not 12, they were 15. It was not over a cell phone. And there's a history of this person acting out in this manner. But this looks like it was like the biggest of situations. I was trying to find more information, but that mother didn't put anything else out there, like what is happening with the child. I'm sure there's some social worker involved now, and it appears that that child is having some um, a breakdown, or there's some mental health issue going on, or something going on that is, like the mother said, this is a history of this. But it appears from her response, they don't know what's going on. In terms of it just sounded like she didn't know what to do, and I think she was more focused on what people were saying about her. And she mentioned that this person who she thought was somebody she could trust, um, shared the video to social media. That wasn't she did this wasn't a live that she was doing. She had made a video to show the destruction that this 15-year-old had um, caused, and because of it, it was just a lot. And I'm in my mind, I'm envisioning watching that video again. So as soon as Marty has it up, we're going to play it. But this is something that a lot of parents, a lot of individuals that are around children, a lot of teachers experience on a daily basis. And for me, what is so heartbreaking is there is no recourse. It feels like Nobody is there to support or help or give support in any way to this parent. Um, and being someone who's been in this situation, I've had children find me on social media and harass me, send me messages that aren't really going to amount to anything, but just the idea that it's happening. I've seen children enraged. When I saw the video, that's the word that came to mind: enraged. So you don't, on the video, when we see it, you're not going to see the child doing it. You're going to see the after effects of it. But the after effects are clearly, you see how this happened. It looked like they walked through the house with it looked like it was done with a hammer. It really, or some hard instrument, because everything, the TV screens are broken, the computer screens are broken, everything. And my question is, and Blue was not able to make today's show because of work, but I definitely wanted to talk to Blue, and we will pick this up and do a part 2 to it once Blue comes back, so we can get a little bit more understanding as to why a child. Because I didn't even feed into what the storyline was, because I know once you see something, the story normally gets watered down. Are we on break? Oh no. But part of the issue was trying to figure out what had happened. And in my mind, the first question that popped in my mind is, what could have happened to make someone that angry, specifically a child? And I've seen children go to terror mode. And for me, terror mode is they're being destructive, they're throwing chairs, they're enraged. And I've seen that in a student. I've had that happen to me before, where I've been that angry as a young person. And for me, it was more so I was not being addressed in that moment. And the adult around me was making decisions for their own needs and not mine. And I remember being so frustrated that I did not feel like I was being heard at all. But it never got to that point. And I'm not, measuring anger or frustration, but it just felt like watching that video, our children are in trouble in a space where they don't, I don't know. I don't know how to help them, because I'm seeing how the parents are handling it or not. I'm seeing how the school system is handling it or not. I'm seeing how the leadership in the individual schools are handling it or not. And it really is scary to me to know that these young people are in a space of being on their own, and not having um, being on their own and not having direction or um, anybody to care for them. It's just hard. It's hard. It's hard watching these things happen. It's hard. Mm, when I say that video, this took, and then the mother's reaction to the second video that I saw was just devastating. It was, and it just, I'm wondering who can help. Who can help? Who can I don't know. Like, who can help? Who can help? Who can um what can be done? I was having a conversation with a young person today, and where I'm at with that young person is what do you want me to do? They had did something that was inappropriate. And I wanted, I could no longer be frustrated. So all I could say was, what can I do? What is it that you want me to do? And what was interesting, the kid, and I don't know how permanent this mood that the kid was in is, but he was like, I don't feel like arguing no more. Like, and it gotten to a point where I don't know. I've seen children be expelled before. I've seen children be suspended. I've had to turn in information where students were suspended or kicked out of a school. Um, Last thing I like to do is have to call a parent or to inform the principal. Recently I had to take half of my class to the principal, like half of the class, because at some point you get tired. I don't like yelling. I don't like being on edge. And you have students that in your face will play. Parent come up there and they totally different. And then once the parent leaves, literally that same day, they're back to where they were. Um, but I feel like it's something more going on. And I don't think it's just abuse or neglect, but something is happening where students just are losing all concern. And I don't know who is to blame. And I don't really think you can blame anybody, because I think the whole system, teachers, faculty, parents, family, community, world, government, all together are to blame. And who loses out? The child. Because now that child is being put into a space where they're acting out in ways that they can't take that back. Because once you get kicked out of a school or expelled, it's really hard for another principal to want to take you in. It really is. And a principal don't have to accept you into their school. So charter school or homeschooling becomes, or alternative school becomes the only method. Um, and there are people doing studies right now that are saying if your child is not reading or writing or behaving in a certain way at this point in life, and it's elementary school that they're taking these polls, elementary and middle school that they're taking these polls, that determines whether another jail gets built. It determines what services get taken away from schools, what services are then put into schools. So you have a school like I'm in right now, where it's a wholeness school. So because these things are happening in this community, we have social workers, we have therapists, um, uh, and other partners that come in that specifically deal with behavior, because that becomes more prominent than the education is. And I'm just concerned. I'm concerned because I'm seeing children, and I'm really, I'm not really measuring myself up against them when I was their age, but I'm just thinking about the kids that were in my class throughout elementary school, and a lot of these children cannot read, like can't read, cannot write a sentence, even a basic sentence. So Monty says the video is ready. So whenever you can start planning, and I just want us to watch it and just, ugh.
Here.
Mm. I know in watching it, I really couldn't even understand what I was watching. The house is tore up.
take a baby back. Mercy. Oh my God. Oh my God.
Toilet.
Explain this to my job. Explain it to my job. Oh God.
Mm. I don't know what you would do. I mean, you can, call the police and they'll put them in the system and a social worker come out and it will be determined whether or not that space is conducive for that child to live in or if that child is safe enough being in that environment. Or are the ah I really had to watch it. The first time I watched it, I'm thinking it's like some hoarder show. Then I started reading the comments, and then it felt like as soon as I sent it to Marnie, the people started tagging me in the video that the mom put out. So that's the little woman that you saw walk past the screen. She put out a video kind of clarifying things. So this was a 15-year-old boy. She said he's over 6 feet tall. He has a history of acting out. Um, I'm curious, Monty, what would you have done? Are you there? I just my biggest like I don't want to bring up anybody. I
Oh, you couldn't even hear me. I was talking that whole time. I was on mute. Sorry.
that's why I kept
I was
talking.
saying
Like,
though, I don't think intuitively she would be able to let go of her son, like completely. But I don't think he would live in here. He wouldn't live here.
because
But
it
I
looks
think
like
she would
she has
feel,
at least a baby, another baby. I don't know how many other children she
yeah,
may
because
have.
you can see there's behavioral issues there for him because he went. It's not only the detriment of the house, but he went from room to destroy the house.
Yeah.
Like
When by the time she
it's
got to
one
that
thing to
toilet, I was
destroy
like,
your own bedroom,
yeah.
her son's bedroom. If he was to
Mm-hmm.
destroy his own bedroom, but he intentionally went from room to room to room to room, living room, kitchen, all of the utensils, all of the appliances, and destroyed them simultaneously. Like it's just
Yeah.
wow. The psychosis you have to be in to do that one, because you always, even as a child, you was always thinking of the cost of things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I know
that's
I
what I was
was.
doing. I was adding it up and
Yeah.
she was going around.
And to think that, in your own home, say for instance, you made a mistake and broke the TV, the way your mother would look at you like, all right, so how you gonna pay for this?
Mm-hmm.
You
But
went and
imagine
broke
all of the TV.
everything in
Yeah.
that house.
Yeah. And it was the video was choppy a little bit, but there were a few holes in the wall. I'm and that's stuff. You can make money and pay for stuff. But I'm worrying the next time is
You
she gonna be the
basically
one.
destroyed your whole entire mom's life.
Yeah.
Everything that she built for
Mm-hmm.
you and for herself. You
Yeah.
destroyed it all. And I felt bad for her when she went over to and her work computer was broken.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because she has to pay for that.
Mm-hmm. But that looked like her
Her
work
job might
desk
give
or
her a break,
something.
but still.
Yeah. But so this is so as a teacher, Marnie, this is what I'm saying. Imagine that young man being in your class.
Mm.
In today's world, he's not the only one. They have, and I misspoke a couple episodes ago. There are some schools that still have special education.
Mm-hmm.
That have in special education, meaning contained classrooms, meaning everybody in that class is special needs.
Mm-hmm.
There are a few schools that still have that. The rest of the schools, when you get to middle school, high school, they are a part of the general population of students.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning, and this is why teachers complain about it being a lot of students in that classroom, because you may have 4 students like him in your room. No teacher's aide, nobody sitting in a classroom one-on-one with that student in some cases. And you may have 4 students with kind of mental disorders like he have. You may have 5 or 6 with special educational needs, like they don't read well, or they may be dyslexic or ADHD, or they may be on medication. All of that is in a classroom. And we are expecting parents, community, just people in general are expecting for teachers to be able to deal with all of that. And the moment they can't, it becomes about them not being able to handle it versus why the hell do you have almost 30 some children in this classroom and 5 of them are on that level? So I'm only imagining at home, if you got 5 children and one of your children may be like that, what you're dealing with. Because not only are you having to focus your attention on this one student, on this one child, so you're not, he's not acting out in that way, but now you have 4 children that you're not able to give all the love and attention to. So now they begin to act out just to get attention in some cases. I watched this and everything I wanted to talk about today, I had to take that shit off the table because it didn't even matter. Because this is the reality that teachers are dealing with, whether it be to that severity or not. You have multiple children in a classroom that may have that aptitude or that tendency. They just want to destroy things when they're raging. And sometimes it's not even about them wanting attention or getting their way. It's just, I'm mad.
Right.
And I don't know how to deal with it. I'm just thinking back to school for me, and I don't remember those students. I don't remember that. So I don't know when this started. I mean, as a teacher in the school system, I can see for me when it started happening. But just in general, did they stop medicating the children? Did they stop, I don't remember it being that bad.
That's because we got Frankens.
Mm.
I'm sorry to say it. I mean, as much as people don't want to hit their children no more.
Yeah.
And we
But
80s baby.
When you decide to do it.
So if we can actually see what being spanked did for us.
Yeah.
I mean, because I didn't find it as abusive as other people seem to think it is. Even as a person that was experienced the beating, right?
Well, that's accountability, though. That meant you had accountability in what you did.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there were situations where children were being abused.
Right.
Like, I'm drunk tonight, so I'm going to beat the shit out you.
But
That's
you know
not
what's
what
so
we're
interesting? Because I say that as a person that didn't get to be, that didn't get the brunt. I can't even find the word I'm trying to say. The brunt of it, like my sister got. Because I remember there was a time where my sister had got beat with an extension cord.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was abusive.
Mm-hmm.
But that wasn't my fight. It was her fight. If she felt it was abusive, then she would have took it to another level. I don't think she felt that way. She did something wrong and she got disciplined for it. Unfortunately, it was with an extension cord. At that moment, she probably felt like I was being destroyed. But She knew she did something wrong and she was being disciplined for it.
Accountability.
Exactly. So that's why
And
she
that's
didn't call the
what's
police.
missing.
She probably wanted to in that moment,
Yeah.
but after the initial shock of being beat, she actually felt like, okay, I did do something wrong. I was wrong.
Yeah.
I got hit in my mouth with a brush.
Maybe she didn't have to get a beating with an extension cord. Maybe she just could have had an open hand.
True.
But
I got hit in my mouth with a brush. My mouth didn't bleed, but my lip swelled up. My bottom lip swelled up. I could have called the police.
Yeah.
I did something wrong though, and I got disciplined for it. That's how it was. That was the feeling that I took away from why I got hit with the brush.
I'm
laughing
because I was at home one day and I used to like to play with fire.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where it came from. I don't know. I honestly, even if I ask my mother, I don't know where it came from. And I remember I thought I had cleaned all the cinder off the stove, and she found a piece of cinder and knew that I was playing with fire. And she went to hit me, and I ducked, and I ran into the stove. And that's why my eye is a little lazy on this side. I ran into the stove, and my eye was swollen.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember her not sending me to school for 2 days until my eye came down.
She didn't want them to think that she
didn't want to go to the foster parent at that time, and she worked in the school system, so she knew
she didn't want nobody to perceive that she blackened your eye.
Right. But at the same time, my aunt came in and was ready to defend me, and I just stayed quiet. I said to my aunt, "Oh, I hit my eye." Mm-hmm. And my mother said, because I was about to beat your ass. It embarrassed me, but at the same time, I knew I was in there playing with fire. Mm-hmm. And I know my mother's rage was, bitch, if you burn my house down, where the fuck we gonna live?
Right.
Like, I remember hearing her say that. But what is missing, and it seems crazy for people who aren't in the school system to understand, the accountability is gone. Last year, a student stole my cell phone, and when he was forced to give it back to me, an hour later, after lunch was over, he was back in my classroom. Mm. His mother had not been called. There was a fake apology given, but nothing happened to him. Mm. So guess what he did the next day he came in? He took my keys. Oh, God. To this day, I don't know where any of those keys are. Never found the keys. Never found them. So there's nothing that was done. They just bring them back into the classroom. It took 2 of them setting a fire in the bathroom for them to even suspend them for 3 days. So I don't, like you said, you knew, okay, I was fucking up. This is why I'm getting a beating. Because often your parent explained to you why you was getting a beating.
Exactly. And it's probably most time it's in the midst of being beat.
Right. And that's what we laughing, but in a moment we were devastated. But were we really being abused? Because, and I'm saying it not to excuse the children I know children who were getting beatings because dad came home drunk today.
Right. And there's a difference between that and
mom had a tick. Mom had a mental tick. And when I breathed too loud, she backhanded me or hit me with a shoe or threw me down. But what is happening now, because those things happen, because a teacher touched a child inappropriately, because a teacher went off, now all of the students are being given chance after chance after chance. So to a child that's not being said the fire is hot, they're gonna keep touching the fire. and they get burned, and then they go wrap their hands up, and then they come back and do the same thing again and have the same behavior. So I'm in my mind, I'm looking at this video. How many times has this mother gone through this? And for me, will she be next? The next video that comes out, will she be laying in a hospital bed with her arm broken? Like that's because children who are suffering from that, whether they have mental disorder or they may have some developmental issues, is we jokingly say those types of students are very strong, but they are. My mom she switched from the education to the counseling field, and she had her arm broken. My mother has a metal plate in between her wrist and her forearm now from having her wrist broken by a child. So, and this was a child that she kept asking for more visibility for. She didn't want to be alone with this child. The child was bigger than her. The mother said this. He's bigger than me. He's like 6 feet tall. So a spanking is out of the question. When I'll send you that one when we do part 2. But that I'm looking at that house like, is this the day that Nate go to jail for beating a child? Like this has to be like at what point? But I'm more so speaking from the perspective of the school system, because in the school system, our hands are tied. You can't just beat a child no more. Corporal punishment is gone.
Right.
It needs to come back, but it's gone. But there's no. So I'm not understanding it from the
that's
side
part
of
of the issue too, though, is that kids
Mhm.
no longer have, and I hate, it's kind of hard to say a healthy fear, but they no longer have a healthy fear of their parents.
Respect. I mean, what you're saying is there's no longer respect there.
Mm-hmm.
But the respect is gone from I could count and don't have enough fingers to count how many parents that say, "Well, what do you want me to do?" He does the same thing at home.
Right.
I've had a mother tell me, "Do not keep my child after school no more because I'm not coming in here for him no more." He's doing the same, and that was right before the pandemic hit. Like literally, that happened the week before the pandemic. All that first year, I was like, that boy dead. He did. Because I could not imagine her being alone with that child for 2 years and him being okay. And I prayerfully he good, because I believe he's like in middle school now. Well, probably like 5th grade. But she said, I'm not coming in here for him no more. She said, I'm done. And this little boy was in the 1st grade when she said this. Before the pandemic hit, that was the end of his 1st grade year. And she was done with him. But this is the same young man that would fall out. I still got a videotape of him falling out on the floor. There's a lot of children that I prayed for constantly throughout the pandemic, because I know their parents couldn't deal with them on a day-to-day basis, 24 hours a day. I know a lot of children just got left in the house by themselves because their parents had to get the hell out of there. Or they started getting more beatings. So some of the school systems, like the school system that I'm in, they started doing home visits. So even though they were virtually learning, a lot of the social workers and admin would do home visits because we knew some of those children were a lot. And as was suspected, a lot of the children was like terrorizing because they wasn't clocking in for school. So we knew something was happening. But I don't know. Like I was speechless when me and Blue were gonna talk about something totally different. And when I saw this, I just could not. I went to school with that. Mind you, I watched that when I sent you that message. I think I sent that to you like early this morning. I went to school with that on my mind. Like I knew today was gonna be a rough day because I had my 5th graders. When I have my 5th graders, it's a tough day. But I couldn't imagine being at home with them for 2 years, all day long. And then what this video showed was probably a result of that boy being locked in that house for 2 years. Or not, and a lot of students, we see it more, I see it more with the younger students. They don't know how to be in class with each other no more. Like they don't know how to share, like, and that was always the problem, but it's a bigger problem now. And you can tell the children that may not have had many children with them. So some of the students that I have right now were not even in school when the pandemic happened. Some of them were born during the pandemic or right before the pandemic. Some of them were in pre-K and kindergarten when the pandemic hit. So a lot of them, educational wise, we understand that they're behind, but a lot of them are socially behind because a lot of them don't have siblings. And even the ones that had siblings, a lot of parents were really keeping their children away from people. So whatever the problem is now is magnified like 100% of what the problem was in 2020. At the beginning of 2020, before we went into a pandemic, a lockdown from the pandemic. And I don't know, I'm scared for children. I'm concerned about parents and teachers, and I'm just worried about the two together. I really don't know. You have a nephew. How has this been for him going through the pandemic and now being back in school? Is he having some behavioral issues, or is he
No,
coming home talking about other people?
that I thought. Well, I actually never thought about it because my sister is like really, really, really hands-on with him,
Mm-hmm.
and
But he's the
I guess
only
that's
child,
probably
right?
part of the fray of her being able to work from home as well, though, too. So in the
Mm-hmm.
beginning,
Okay.
when they were starting to bring kids back to school, she, at first she was apprehensive on sending him, like
Mm-hmm.
everybody else was. She wanted to keep him home, but then that whole issue with Baltimore County and trying to, sign up to stay home to be, to do the virtual learning thing, that was still an issue. So he ended up going back to school. He reacclimated like it was nothing. So no, he did not have a struggle. But again, she's like very hands-on. Like when he comes home, homework time, then you can go play.
Okay. If he had
Things
a
like that.
structure for him.
Exactly. Or she goes up to that school and she's very when I say hands-on, like she logs in all the time to see what his grades look like.
Yeah.
Or assignments due, or things, like that. But that's not a typical parent's thing when they can't stay at home, when they don't have the option to stay at home and they have to go to work or have to be, can't be distracted by their child's schooling and all that kind of stuff. So
And
she
you
was in
see
a different
it.
kind of
You
state
see it
too.
though. That's a difference. And that's because I'm not saying because, but he's the only child. So she don't have multiple
That too,
children.
exactly. So she don't
Right.
have multiples to have to worry about too.
Mm-hmm. It's but you can see even back to school now, you can see the parents that were just going through the motions like, yeah, okay, what else information? You can see the parents that came together and was in it versus the ones that didn't show up. We have at my school right now, I think we have 150 some students, and that's really low enrollment. And only like 30 parents showed up.
Mm.
So now we're seeing these children and we understand who is the problem. And even some of the children that are a problem, parents came. But it is a difference. And like if I call a parent, I don't have a problem on that child for a while. Versus if I call a parent and they don't have the correct number, or we never meet them until the child is suspended, or a parent-teacher conference is forced to happen. But it is, I know I don't blame a lot on this pandemic. I understand a lot of the things that are happening now are a result of it. But the problem happened in the pandemic. When they first went to virtual at the end of that school year, before they even started the next school year, all in virtual. So they had a whole year in virtual, and then they had a year where it was kind of like half and half, and now we're in the school year that we just passed, where it was like they came back full time. And then this year, of course, they're all full time. But it's still it's a weird phase to be in, to see um behavioral issues be magnified, especially without we expected, or the school system rather expected, for that to happen with older children, like high school, middle school. That was expected because they were already feisty, they were already getting into things, and now they're coming back. So that was expected. What wasn't expected was elementary school. So we thought it would be easier because they were already young and they wasn't used to school for a couple years. But you are seeing behavioral issues like not being able to sit in a classroom, just getting up and running out of a classroom, being disrespectful. There's a lot of sexual behavior going on in elementary school. I have a lot of children drawing phalluses on everything. Or you have students that are addicted to porn. And you don't know if this was introduced to them before all this, but it definitely magnified because now most students had at least a tablet and they were watching it. We have a lot of children that are, and I don't remember being that way in school. You may have had one or two students, but it wasn't the class. And now it's the class. But what is worse is a lot of the parents are just so, they're aiding in the behavior. But like you were saying about your nephew, like some parents just had a better hold of it and were blessed to be able to work from home and have that supervision. A lot of these students were not. There was one child that some of the teachers talk about, and I don't think he came. I don't think he's coming back this year, but we can't say that because a student just started today. But he would be on live with his baby, I think it was his baby brother, on his lap while he was in class. So you wonder why he has that adult attitude. Well, he was being adult because he was watching babies while he was in class on virtual learning. So I don't know how to address this. And that was one of the reasons I wanted to talk about this today, because Blue has more experience He works with children and adults as a therapist and counselor. And it really, I'm just curious as to what his perspective is on this, because it's just, as a teacher, I'm just trying to figure out how do I navigate? I'm being told in my professional developments, children can't learn from teachers they don't like, but they're saying the same thing to children. So you're basically telling this child, you don't have to like this person. They have to make you like them. And it's not a shared experience. On the other side of it, because now we have more therapy in schools, children are now being given more verbiage to express how they feel, which is a great thing. But children will use things against you all the time to their advantage. They know how to navigate conversations now. The thing that is missing is the experience and the wisdom. So you can tell that this is a child that just been given information. They don't really know what they're doing with it. All they know is, I can get you fired, or I can call the police on you, or you can't say that to me. After they just finished cussing you out, telling you to suck their hind parts or kiss their hind parts, if you were to even say damn, that becomes, oh my God, Mr. Couser said damn. You're not supposed to say stuff like that. So so they know we have more restrictions on us than any of them have. And as parents, any parents that are watching this, I pray for you. So pray for me and pray for the rest of the teachers that your children, if you have children, are around, because it's really a good thing. Even when Marty speaks about his nephew, the other people in that class, because it's often students like that are not behavioral issues, but they're in classes with people who are raging, who are showing the signs of being locked in a house for 2+ years. So then they get less of what they need because the teachers and staff are focusing more on them. The same way when you have children. That's why I'm really hard on Nick Cannon for thinking that he could keep having all these fucking children. Because you can't keep your eyes on all of them, no matter how much money you have. Because at that point, you're just paying people to watch them and paying these mothers to keep having them. So that's another issue. But that's why I'm so hard on him for that reason, because it really is, it's different. And I really need parents to understand we need to share in this responsibility. And the topic of quick to anger, is really children displaying really volatile and really mental struggling disorders. I said it almost right, but it's also we have to figure out together how to deal with this, because you can't just keep putting more and more restrictions on teachers and expecting for them to come out with the best possibilities. Because a lot of teachers now are suffering from stress. You have teachers that are literally walking off the job, not even ending the day, but just walking off the job and never coming back. I remember that first, like last, not this fall past, the fall before that, there were teachers that would literally leave on Friday and not ever return, and have not returned. And we can't keep doing this thing where we're just ignoring it and just blaming the teachers at the end of the day. Well, you can't control your class. No, you are putting people in this class that don't mix. This is a volatile mix of people. That's like drinking light and dark liquor in one glass. You're going to shit yourself. You're going to be in a fight. You're going to do something irresponsible. Like, it's when you mix the wrong elements together, chaos is bound to happen. And we have to figure out now, because a lot of these children are graduating from high school. A lot of these children will eventually graduate from high school, hopefully, and still not have all the tools that they need. I can't even think about them going to college right away. I would pray that they could. I would pray that they could matriculate into their adult life. But a lot of these children are being passed into adult life not ready. I don't think my oldest niece, was ready to graduate. I have friends who I don't think their children are ready to graduate. I see students, I don't think that they're ready to matriculate to the next grade, even let alone graduate. They're not ready. And them just mixing. We have I have a student now from Senegal. One, she's never been in school, because some of those countries, those smaller countries, the girls don't go to school. So this is her first time in school. So she speaks a language. In Senegal, French is a predominant language, but there's a language called Wofo that is more prominent. That's actually number one spoken in the country. So she understands it because she dialogues and have conversations with her family, but she can't read her own language. That's functional. But in terms of her learning our language, I can tell how hard it's going to be for her. And I just pray she doesn't get frustrated in the process, because all of us are trying to figure out this language. And I knew what the language was, but it's not an English easy language. And a lot of it, like Google Translate, doesn't have that on their list. So, you're figuring it out, and it is a way to get around it, and she'll eventually learn it, because she has a family member that is English speaking as well. So that will help her. But it really is, it's different. And I just, as we close out the show today, if you know anybody with children, if you know a teacher or a parent with especially multiple children, do something nice for them. I ain't saying babysit because that ain't my shtick either. But check in on them, ask them how they doing. Because I know for a minute I just suffered in silence. I didn't really go to my principals. Now I know they be tired of me because that whole thing of accountability is missing, and they have no. There are no consequences to their actions, whether it be failing a class because they just go pass them along, or throwing a chair, hit somebody in the head. There are no consequences. You send them home for 3 days. To a child that don't want to be in a classroom, that ain't doing nothing. They're not going to fail because you just go pass them on. So, and that's happening. Children who have failing grades are being given default grades and sent to the next grade and having to catch up. So they're not even catching up to the grade that they're being sent to. They're catching up to the grades that they've been passed from. You have a lot of people a lot of students in elementary school that may be in third, fourth, and fifth reading on kindergarten levels. Can you? Oh, you have the response. Can you play that? So this is the mother's response.
It really sucks that I have to make a video to prove that this damage that was done to my life is real, and that my friend betrayed me and sent this video out to the public of something so hurtful. But it's real. The damage is real. It's, the glass is gone, the broken glass is cleaned up, but the damage is still here. It's still here. Things that have to be, this is an apartment. I have to fix this. And it's not funny. My son is 6 foot tall. He's not 12. He's 15. And he's 270 pounds. So no, I can't spank him. And he's mentally ill. So yeah, it's real. So I guess everybody's saying they want to know who it is. Okay, so now you know it's me. It's me. It's my son. It's my house. No, he's not 12. It wasn't over a cell phone. He's 15. He's 6 foot tall, and he's 270 pounds. So no, I couldn't spank him. We try to clean up as much, but yeah, the damage is real. The window is still broken out. The marble is still broken, not going away immediately. So I don't know what anybody wants from me. My son is mentally ill. I've dealt with this for 15 years, and it just sucks that I trusted someone and they sent the video out, and now everyone is looking at my hurt.
I mean, I feel for her, but what she is describing is the result of people passing him along and probably telling her, oh, he'll grow out of it, or not giving him the resources that are required. And I'm not saying she's not doing what she's supposed to do, because it sounds like for 15 years she's been dealing with it and probably trying to find resources, but something isn't connecting. Therapy does not fix anyone. Therapy is for the therapist or counselor to figure out what the issue is. That's a whole nother issue when it comes to solving the problem or finding the solution. So hearing that, after seeing that video, I watched that video, it was very frustrating to me, because the first thing that we do online is give our opinion. You don't know what this lady's been dealing with since day one with this child. And some children are born with that mental defect where behavior is their outlet. You see it through their behavior, how they interact. And this has been probably 15 years in the making. This has been in the making for 15 years. And it's been built up and built up and built up. And he probably was doing little things at first, breaking little things at first. And now he just destroyed their home. And like she said, she's a renter. So she got to fix all of that. I mean, hopefully she doesn't have one of those landlords or property management companies that, spy on you. Because if they was to see this, and it's already viral, so if they see it, they can kick her out. And it's probably already been a problem. Somebody's calling the police on him because he's done this, or he's hit a child, or I can imagine what this young man looks like, because I have these young people in my class and nobody's addressing the issue. You send them to the office, they send them right back. The next day, they're back in your class. A parent hasn't been called. A meeting hasn't happened. It's wild. It's wild. And nobody's doing anything. And when I say nobody, I mean nobody. Parents are hoping that this is just a phase. They're trying to deal with it. Often you hear about parents getting arrested for abusing their child. And it's situations like this. Especially in the Black communities, we're taught that we can beat that out of a child. Now, we were just talking about punishment and discipline, but when your child is on that level, a beating is not going to work. Especially by the time they got to 15 and they've been doing this all their life. A beating is like adding fuel to a fire. And she probably she's probably terrified of a child. Because if he can create that type of destruction, he could do that to her. And I'm wondering, had it happened before, if he's not put into a facility to get him some structured help, around the clock help, she is going to be next. I've worked in those types of facilities where the child was sent to that facility after putting their hands on a parent or after beating up a teacher. Lastly, this is real. It's real. It's real. So if you know any parents that may be struggling, do some research for them, find some spaces for them to get the help. If you're in the school system, I thank you for your service and hope that things turn around before you decide to leave. I hope that you have a supportive administrative team. And I complain a lot, and it's not really complaining, it's just telling my story. But up until this point, I've had a really supportive team at my school. But it's still not enough, because a lot of the accountability throughout the districts, not just here in Baltimore, because and me watching that podcast, Teachers Off Duty, I'm realizing it's like this everywhere. It's not just the Baltimores, it's all over. It's all over. And hearing some of the stories that come from teachers from that podcast, I know I'm not alone. And up until the day, you're dealing with students that are disrespectful. I had a student say, "Suck my dick," today. I'm just, it is weird. It's weird. And I don't know how to better describe it, but it's weird. And we have to figure out how to maneuver around it. So this has been the Artist Exchange radio show. We are on every Friday at 5 p.m. Next Friday, we won't be here, but I'll go live on the page probably after the show or before the show. with Blue, but we'll be there. If you can come, it's at the Voxel. So look up the Voxel, Voxel, and the show is called Funktopia. They've done a number of these throughout the summertime, and they did one last year. And Blue is one of the main characters this time. Shout out to his team, Jonathan Gilmore and the posse. Jonathan being the leader of this, and all the actors and such. So I'm spent. I'm going to do a little bit of more work here at the studio, and then I'm gonna head home. And I got a bar over there. Y'all want to see my bar? Let me forget my bar. And I'm not a drinker, and even Marty will vouch for that. I'm not a drinker. Oops, there you go. So I'm gonna show y'all my bar. Oh, I can't even look at the camera. But you see that? You see that right there? That's what I'll be wanting to do. I'll be wanting to partake in those things, but I'm not that person. But oops, did I cut it off, Marty? Oh, because I can't. But this has been the Artist Exchange. Nate Blue isn't here. He'll be back not next week, but the week after next, because this show is next week. But peace out, people. You said what? October. Yes. Time is going. So peace out, people.
That follow.
So we won't be on that the second week of October. Okay.
No, you'll be back the first week, the 7th.
I said the second weekend.
Yeah.
Isn't it the 15th or something?
No, it's the 7th.
No, I'm saying for your trip.
Oh no, I leave the 27th of September.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. So we won't be back until October then.
October 7th.
See y'all, peoples. Peace out. I need a burger or something. I gotta leave early so I can get me a burger from Wendy's. Oop, I'm still on air. I ain't say that. I can't see anything. That's weird.